Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about the Heaven 6 technique. The idea behind this video for today is looking at Filipino martial arts, Eskrima, and seeing how it stands against some of the martial arts from around the globe, from the world. And so first, let me start off with the South African knife fighting system of Piper. And when I take a look at Piper knife fighting, um, from what I can tell, they are rapidly changing hands. So the knife is in the reverse grip, and it's rapidly going from right to left, and they're making all these rapid and fast movements to make it very hard to read, unpredictable, to really throw you off and intimidate you with the speed and just the chaos that they create, the way they move and stuff. It almost kind of looks like a 52 blocks version of knife combat. And the idea behind the Piper, from my understanding, is that in order to protect yourself against the bad guys, you got to see what they do, and what the bad guys do, and the bad guys do what they do because it's very effective. So it's the idea of learning the bad guys' art, the criminals' fighting method, learning that, and the 52 blocks also, I think, has similar roots in it, that there is like a prison or convicts type of background in there, where the art was developed, from my understanding, and being developed in dangerous, poor neighborhoods. That gives it a very street realistic approach, which I think is absolutely great. And so now let's take a look to the Heaven 6 and compare it. And when I look at the Heaven 6, the movement itself of the Heaven 6, right? It's a fixed pattern. So it's the same pattern: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the same pattern done over and over again. If you've ever had somebody who knows the Heaven 6, decently well, they don't have to be a grandmaster or anything, but someone who can do it very, very well, and have that done to your face, okay? They don't have to make contact with you, but just have them do it in front of you. It's very disorienting. It's very hard to read. I've been doing, Filipino martial arts for over 25 years. I've been, doing Heaven 6 for over 25 years. Very familiar with the move. I feel like I know it like the front and the back of my hand. But if somebody does it to me really fast, I mean, it's hard to read. It's like, whoa, what's going on? That I still get that reaction. It's not that I can't adapt to it and deal with it, but it's definitely, if you mess up, it can overwhelm and destroy you. So, and the other thing is, if you feel that the opponent is reading you and predicting and anticipating your movements, then it's really not difficult to change it, because the Heaven 6 is so versatile. It is the Swiss Army knife of martial arts techniques. And there's other patterns that you could mix it in with. And now just even throwing one or two different things, man, that like changes it like crazy. So when I look at it that way, the Heaven 6 already has the built-in deceptive arms and blinding speed. All that is built in. So I feel like there's a lot of common grounds with the Piper method right there. Okay, it's not the same, definitely not the same, but it has similar strengths there. So now the next one I want to talk about is, let me go to KFM, KC Fighting Method, which is the fighting method that was used in the Christian Bale Batman movies. So Batman used that type of fighting method. And the KFM is, it's for self-defense, and it was developed over in Europe, over in the UK area, for very realistic street application, street fighting, street self-defense type methods. And one of their main things is that they protect the head. And they have this like they're combing their hair, which forces the arms to be very, very close to the head. And they use a lot of hammer fists and elbow strikes, which I think is very great. It's looks extremely highly realistic and effective for the street. Now, back in the day when I was in college, I remember I went to go learn capoeira out of interest. And the capoeira instructor he looked very, very streetwise. And I remember that guy, he asked me to do the jinga, which is their basic movement that a lot of other movements are developed from. And it's a fundamental movement. So when I was doing the jinga, I remember he came up to me and he said, "You need to protect your head, and you got to guard you got to guard your head at all times." So the way he was doing it was like, he was guarding the head like so. And I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. So when I went home, I was like, why don't I apply the same idea to the Heaven Six? So I did, and basically the idea is the Heaven Six. This is the starting position. It's normally like around here, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after what he said, putting his advice into the Heaven Six, first of all, I raised it to here. So rather than here, it's here to protect the head, and rather than the arm underneath, right here. The movement is still the same. It's still the same idea, but now you get to protect the head this way. Boom, 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 right here. So that was huge. And of course, this you could probably see there's a lot of similarities to the KFM method in it, that you need to protect the head, because on the street, a lot of people are head hunters. They attack for the head. And if you get tagged in the head and lights go out, then that's it for you. You're at their mercy 100%. So, you got to protect the CPU, right? So yeah, in that sense, it's very, very similar. However, the KFM, I think, they have their hands actually touching the head, whereas to this is not. This is still a Heaven Six movement, and even though it's very close, I'm not. You can, but I'm not. So you see, there's still a little bit of distance there. So there's definitely differences, 100%, and not so much a hammer fist, elbows, yes. But the wedge, I've always said to you guys, the wedge, the wedge, the wedge. So the wedge is the blade all the way to the elbow, which to me is also a blade. So all this blade area right here, this is what we use. So once again, very similar pros together with the KFM and the Heaven Six done this way. So now the next style that I want to go into is Senshido, which is an Canadian. I'm sorry, it's Canadian. If I'm not mistaken, Richard Dimitri, I believe, is a Canadian guy. And so he, I think, was originally from Tony Blauer's, one of his guys. And so they come from a very, very, a street self-defense, realistic school of thought. And in it, there's a technique called the shredder that they teach in Senshido. And you know what? My bad. Once again, I'm messing this up. Sorry. The shredder is more of a concept, from my understanding, than a technique. And I remember one of Richard Dimitri's guys sending me a book to review. And I did on YouTube. It was an ebook. He asked me to review it. I read it, and I did some research and I reviewed it for the guys. And it had some great info in there. And he did mention the shredder technique in there as well. So the shredder is more of a concept. And the idea is you're clawing the guy's face, to put it simply. But you could bite, you could do so much more. But the main idea is that you overwhelm the guy so much with this aggressive attack that their brain just, it malfunctions, it shuts down, it gets overwhelmed, you know. So if the brain shuts down, that's pretty much the same as a KO, even though they're not knocked out. So you do this relentless attack and make them go blank. That's the idea right there. And okay, so now let me take a little step back and we'll go back to the Heaven Six. But first, let me talk about when I was in college. My first year of college, I had access to one of the biggest libraries in the U.S., in North America. It was in the top 10 biggest libraries here in North America, and I remember going to that library a lot and enjoying it between studies and looking at the books that they had. One of them was a World War I, World War II manual for soldiers, and it was a small booklet that I believe that maybe it was designed so they passed them out in the tents at the barracks, or the soldiers carried it in their rucksacks and they're supposed to study it on their spare time. And it talked about CQC, close quarters combat. And one of the techniques in there was the chin jab, where you blast the guy in the chin with a palm strike essentially, and then immediately go into a tiger's claw technique and rake out their eyes, right? And there were some other techniques in there that really, really impressed me. So at that time, I took notes and everything, and I put it into my own martial arts arsenal. And to this day, I still practice it. I still mess around with it. And over the years, you know, because boy, that was a long time ago. Over the years, it's evolved. I progressed it for me. I'm not saying I made it better. I just said I'm just saying that I made it suit me. And one of the things was that when you blast someone with a chin jab, you know, their head goes back and now you've created distance. And because of that, now it might be a little bit difficult to access the eyes because you just blasted their head back. That can happen. You know, I've also practiced it to where, you know, it works well, boom, and it goes immediately into the eyes. But there's other times where, boom, you definitely almost push them away and now you don't have access to the eyes. So I started thinking, what about the reverse? Why don't I attack the eyes first and then go with a power shot, right? Why not? And so when you apply that to the Heaven Six, right, attack the eyes first. So the Heaven Six, when you go to empty hand, I originally thought that the best way to go to empty hand, because when you're holding a weapon, you're making a fist. So when you go to empty hand, you open your hand and now it's like chops and palm strikes. That's how I did the Heaven Six back in the day for empty hand. And then, of course, realize that, you know what, you can claw as well because it's so versatile. So do the Heaven Six with claws and attack their eyes, attack their face that way. And that was kind of the way that I was doing it for a long time. You know, you want to take out the eyes that way. Same old Heaven Six, but just claws, right? So then I went back to the fist. Why? Because back in the day when I was studying the Vale Tudo competitions from Brazil, their NHB, this is the predecessor to MMA. There's a technique where you get them, you know, like in a head control like this, and you use your chin onto their eye, and you press onto their eye. And of course, they're going to close their eye, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're forcing your chin, and you're pressing down on the eyeball, and you're squishing it. You're causing a tremendous amount of pain. And fighters have tapped out from that. There was a fight in Russia where that happened. Igor Vovchanchin, who was an incredibly tough guy, actually tapped out to that. So it is a tremendous technique. And so getting an idea from that, I realized, you know what? I can attack the eyes and I don't have to claw. I could just use a fist. Or I could use any part. You know, this now goes back to the wedge, you know, using the bladed area. And I could just, you know, really, really grind like this, grinding techniques that came from, once again, the Vale Tudo study, where you're grinding onto the opponent, that you could do that and you don't have to use your fingertips. And I like that a lot. And the eyes can be completely closed. It's not about trying to scratch or claw into the eyeball or to try to pluck it out. It's not like that. I'm still attacking the eyes, one of the most sensitive areas of the human body, and but it's different. You know, they could be eyes completely closed, and a lot of times this doesn't cause permanent damage. So that's for a legal reason. It's also good, but still, I'm not compromising any bit of effectiveness. It's still super effective. In fact, I think it's easier to do than try to actually stick your finger into the guy's uh, eye, because you could just do it from above, and it's extremely effective, super annoying, and completely undeniable. So in that sense, you're just doing the Heaven Six like this, using all of this, the blade area, the whole blade of the arm, and just grinding that into the guy's face. Very, very similar to the shredder, yet different, because we're still using a Heaven Six pattern. And now, I'm focusing on just this, and I'm not using the fingertips and stuff. So yeah, very different, but also yet very, very similar in other areas. So, I'm not saying that Filipino martial arts is the best or Heaven Six is the best. No, what I am saying is that the Heaven Six is very deep, and you could really, really explore it and take it. Who knows? These are the directions that I took it. You might take it in a completely different area. And also, the world has these amazing different martial arts. People are so creative, and there are so many different styles out there, and people are doing amazing stuff with their own style. So it's good to study that and see what they're doing, and then, to also examine your own stuff and to progress that. As that's at the end of the day, it's just, how can you develop your craft? That's what you're doing. So it just makes me appreciate both. It makes me appreciate what I had, which is the Filipino martial arts, and it makes me appreciate what the world is doing, which, all these styles that I mentioned, I am not an expert in any of them. I am not anything. I've never trained in any of those, so please don't get the wrong idea. Okay, I've just observed those, and then all I could do is practice on my own, or um, have my own interpretation. So that's also, please don't confuse that. I'm not an expert in that stuff, and I may, who knows, some of my interpretations may be off. Okay, but as far as I could tell, those are the things that I got out of watching those techniques and stuff, and then reflecting on what I've done with my own techniques, in this case the Heaven Six, and I see a lot of common grounds and stuff, and that's one of the things that makes me feel good. It makes me go, oh, I've been going kind of like on the right path. It's a affirmation in a sense. So anyway, it's really, really fun martial arts journey to do that. I implore you guys to study and work on your craft as well. And anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.